Hello and welcome to State of the Economy. Today we have with us Mr. B K Chaturvedi, former Cabinet Secretary and currently member of Planning Commission, who will explain to us in some detail this whole debate about many states demanding a special status these days. Only last week the Bihar Chief Minister Mr. Nitish Kumar spoke about how Bihar deserves a special status in terms of funding from the centre. He also said that many other backward states like Bengal and Orissa also deserve a special status, and these are the states which will decide what sort of government at the centre will come in 2014 after the general elections. Welcome to this show, Mr. Chaturvedi. Now, to begin with, why don't you just explain to us what is this whole new campaign coming from various states seeking a special status? As far as I know, currently only the northeastern states have a special category status, which is quite different from a special status. What is the politics and economics behind this special status? Could you just explain to us?
See, at this moment today all over the country in various parts, people like economic development and growth. They would like to have more schools, more hospitals, better quality of life. And recently, in the last 2 decades, there has been a great upsurge for this.
Demand for special status.
Absolutely, more and more.
And states are competing with each other on development.
On development, people want to have better quality of life.
Yeah.
Now, because of this, just now, since there has been a very wide divergence in per capita incomes, in states like Bihar, which had around 1/5 of the per capita income in the 1990s, now have I think around 1/4, but nevertheless
1/5 of the national average.
1/5 of the highest.
Of the highest.
The highest being Maharashtra or Haryana in per capita income terms.
So that was a gap.
That's the gap. That's the gap. So people are saying that, look, this is too much, so we need growth and therefore we need larger investments. Now, therefore, they want a larger plan investments. The feeling is that if plan expenditure comes, then they will be able to do better, develop their infrastructure better.
So central plan funds they want.
Absolutely, larger funds. Now, central plan funds you can access in 2 ways. One, you have the normal central assistance, which is in accordance with the Mukherjee-Gadgil formula. Sure. It's decided that's a standard formula in which you give weightage to poverty, weightage to population and other factors. But that's not a very large component. A major chunk of resources today is flowing through the centrally sponsored schemes.
And if you combine the two, what is the amount today roughly?
Well, if you combine the two, I will say that in the 11th plan, it will be somewhere of the order of around 11 lakh crores, the total amount, of which around 7 lakh crores was centrally sponsored schemes, and then there was additional central assistance through which again funds flew. So around 8.5 lakh crores.
So more than 2 lakh crore a year.
Yes, absolutely.
It works out
to that. Yeah, okay. So these resources.
And the whole fight is about how to share how much the backward states will get of this 2 lakh crore a year.
The whole fight is that this is based on certain schemes. For example, this scheme of Narega or Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, so making rural roads or housing or
Sarva Shiksha
Abhiyan, National Rural Health Mission, IABP, various schemes under which there are guidelines. Now, for the country as a whole, we have got two categories of states. There are special category states, which are the northeastern states. There, for most of these schemes, they have to contribute 10%, and Government of India contributes 90% then.
So 90% is grant to them, and
10% they have to contribute from their own resources.
Own resource, okay.
And thereby then they can use all these funds for development. Unlike that, many of the other states, they have to use other yardsticks. For example, in case of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, they have 35% they have to provide so as to get 65% grant from the center, from the central government. Or in some schemes it is 25-75. In some schemes, it is even
50-50.
50-50. So there are various.
The whole fight is about getting more grants.
More grants. So,
so that the state's contribution is minimal.
So their take is that, look, we are not able to access these central resources because we don't have counterpart funds of this
Local resources.
so that you
So
can provide.
Bihar is probably saying that we don't have the 35%
Absolutely.
share that we have to contribute. So therefore you increase the grant
Therefore, you please give us a special status and put up in the special category states, so that they also are able to do the same way as 1090. That is one. Okay. Second, they are saying
Bihar also want 90%
Bihar
grant.
would also like that, yes, similar to the special category
And the same
states,
demand has come from Bengal and Bihar.
to special category
Bengal
states.
and Orissa, right?
Yes. So now in Bengal and Orissa, it's slightly different. Also, Orissa also, in Bihar also, it's slightly different. In addition to this, they are saying that, look, we have our own problems. For example, Bihar has said that, look, in our plan, per capita investment in the plan is very low because we don't have the resources. Now, in case we have to have additional resources, additional plan investments, then you must give us more funds. So, Government of India gave around 1,000 crore per year during the 11th plan period. In the 12th plan, we continued with that. In fact, we increased it in 1 year. But in the remaining part of the 12th plan, the request is that you must give us a larger share
from Bihar.
From
Bihar, yeah.
Absolutely. So that they can have a larger plan outlay, because plan outlay means larger number of roads, more drinking water facilities, better schools, better hospitals, and more investments, better infrastructure, so that people can come and invest in this thing. So that is what their request has been, that you must provide us therefore a special package. Okay. States like West Bengal have had a different nature of problems. Okay. Their problem has been that they have a very high level of debt. So a large part of their resources goes in debt servicing. So they have been saying that, look,
they don't have enough to contribute to the their part of their
plan.
Share of the kitty. Yeah.
Their share of the kitty, their plan outlay. They say that, look, you have the earlier governments, Ms. Mamata Banerjee has been saying, has taken so much debt, and we have to spend so much money on servicing the debt. Therefore, you must restructure the debt or take on board yourself, so that we don't have to service the debt and spend money to that extent, and thereby that will free the resources for our development and growth. So their request has been to that, and for that they have, in addition, they have said that we need, since because of that we don't have resources, you give us a special package.
Oh, that's the West Bengal's case. We'll take a small break here. Please don't go and keep watching RSTV. Welcome back to State of the Economy. We are having a conversation with Mr. B K Chaturvedi, Member Planning Commission, on the states increasingly demanding special status in regard to central funding. So you explained how West Bengal has a different set of problems. They have a debt servicing problem. Now, what sort of problem does Orissa have? Is it similar to Bihar, or is it what West Bengal is facing?
No, Orissa has a different nature of problem. You see, Orissa has been saying that, look, our per capita income is low. We have so much mineral resources, and a lot of our mineral resources are being taken by other states. We are not getting the full advantage of it, and quite often what is happening, that we are getting the worst of it, because people are taking away the coal from here, or they are setting up power plants, and we have to provide the water for it, we have to provide the land. So
they are not getting back their share of the resources that
which they have, and therefore they said that you must give us a larger share in these resources to us, so that our mineral resources, out of that we get more out of those resources than what we have been getting so far, and thereby we will be able to improve.
So here I just want to make a short intervention here. Don't you think Bihar has always had a similar case, that they were a repository of resources when Jharkhand was with Bihar, but they never got enough of a share of those resources which was used by the rest of the country. Now, many analysts, many observers have held that to be a legitimate demand from Bihar. And after Jharkhand was separated, I am told that a lot of resources went into Jharkhand, and they were given a promise even then that for all the loss of rich resources which went to Jharkhand, they would be compensated. Is that also somewhere written down?
Well, this is
an agreement that Bihar would get.
This is precisely
more
the
central
argument
funding?
Which Bihar had been using, that a lot of our resources have gone to now what is now Jharkhand, which is part of our Bihar, and therefore we have to be adequately provided resources and compensated. Otherwise, our resource base has gone very thin, and therefore they said that we should get adequate resources. This is one of the arguments they have put forward before the central government for having a special package.
Tell me, you spoke about per capita income. You said Orissa has a very low per capita income. So does Bihar. In fact, is it a contradiction? I feel it's a big contradiction that Northeast, which has a special category status, whereby it gets 90% grant and only contributes 10% from its kitty, has 3 times the per capita income of Bihar, of Orissa. Is there some contradiction there? Do you think that we need to change the criterion, overall comprehensive criterion based on which we give the special status for funding from center?
Well, you see, historically the northeastern states had a problem because these were very difficult areas. There was no infrastructure there. They had a very little resource base.
Yeah, at that time it was justified, but say if you look at the per capita income today, they are 3 times that of Bihar and Orissa.
Per capita income, no doubt, has improved since then, but their resource base, their ability to sustain this is still very poor. In case you were to see that if you want to do it as a percentage of GDP or GSDP, in case of Mizoram, it is around 2-3% their own tax revenue. Normal nationally, it is around 8%, 7-8% is the average good states. And even if it were to be around 8%, that will be too inadequate because their overall volume of the size of GSDP is so small that you need certain minimum resources for building up roads, hospitals. So even if they have 8%, in absolute terms, the amount will not be adequate for building up some of these large investments required for these hospitals or power plants or huge roads, those things. So historically, these states have had problems, difficulty in investments. Many of them are, I see, gradually coming up. I mean, states like Sikkim, they have done well, and they are gradually coming out. States like Arunachal Pradesh.
I'm told Arunachal, if they have 2 hydel projects operating, if they come up in Arunachal, their income from selling power itself will be 30-40% of their GDP. Is that true?
Absolutely. In fact, it's very interesting that when we were preparing the 11th plan and we were trying to assess how much is the final picture coming up while we were finalizing this final 11th plan and preparing our 12th plan documents, we found that the rate of growth of Sikkim was 22% per annum. So we said that it's an outlier.
How a special category state growing at 22%.
So it's an outlier. So we had to say that, look, if you were to average it amongst northeastern states, now the whole thing varies from around 7% to 22%. That's the broad. So, but this phenomenon has happened only in the 11th plan. There, in the last 5 years, suddenly now the rates of growth. I must say,
laggard states are now growing at a much higher growth rate, right?
Absolutely. And this has also happened in case of many of these so-called Bimaru states. The rates of growth of Bihar, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh.
Bihar is growing at higher than national average last 3-4 years.
Absolutely. 12% grew in the average in the 12th plan, in the 11th plan. And we have said that this is one of the highest. In fact, if you take, we did a study on this and we found that the average rate of growth of the lowest per capita income states of the country, states like Bihar, UP, Rajasthan, Orissa, per capita income was growth in their GDP was around 8.8%
in the last 4-5 years.
In the last 5 years, as against less than 8%, 7.9% or 8% in the 11th plan of a national average. So, and even if you take the highest income growing states, there also, there I think around 0.96 the ratio comes to between the highest per capita income growing states and the lowest per capita income growing states. So, they are now growing at a very fast pace.
So, do you feel then that, as you said, many states, like you said, you gave the example of a northeastern state growing at 22%. Now, if this kind of growth rate continues, do you think a case could be made out at a later stage that special category status to some northeast states which are doing very well may be withdrawn, or do you think what has been given once becomes very difficult to withdraw in Indian politics?
Well, it is, to be honest, both are true. Both are true that it's first of all it's very difficult to withdraw. But I do see that over a period of time, states like Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, and others who have large power resources, both Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh have huge resources. Once they are able to come, and even Mizoram is coming up very well. Meghalaya is coming up very well.
So you could, at a later stage, could reconsider?
At a later stage, when their incomes become very high, and they may not need that support, and they will be self-sustaining.
So you could consider it?
I see it down the line more than 10 years down there.
So we'll take a small break here. Please don't go and stay with us. Welcome back to State of the Economy. We are having a conversation with Mr. B K Chaturvedi, former Cabinet Secretary and currently Member Planning Commission. So now, as you said, maybe after 5, 6, 7 years down the line, if some states have consistently done well and raised their per capita incomes, special category could be withdrawn. And what do you think can be done in regard to low per capita income states today like Bihar, Orissa, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh? Do you think some new system could be evolved where you go program wise and give them higher grants rather than give them higher grants across the board? Do you think you could attack this problem based on critical programs like education, like health? You know, in those you give them much higher grant component because they don't have their own local, their share of revenues not forthcoming to fund these programs?
First of all, I would like to clarify that I don't say that you withdraw a special category status of any of the northeastern states because they have a special problem apart from economic growth, a special problem of tribal areas, of forest areas, of a special tribal status. There are Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 areas. I think one will have to see what happens. But certainly the level of financial support required after 10 years down the line maybe lesser. Maybe lesser.
You could nuance it a little.
Nuance it a little bit. Now coming back to these states, in the 12th plan we have worked out a strategy for this. And one of the major plank is our backward region grant fund. We are expanding it in a huge way. I think more than around 75,000 crores we are thinking that this fund will be there. And this will take care of both the types of problems. Areas which have backward areas within a state like Bundelkhand area or like the KBK in Bihar or other areas like the areas affected by left-wing extremism districts, those areas around
in the Andhra, Orissa, Jharkhand belt.
Absolutely, 60, 65 districts of that is coming to 80. So many of those areas, first of all, we are taking up under this backward region grant fund. And we could take up other areas also based on their backwardness, based on their needs, and this is trying to be identified on the basis of a block now, rather than
so you're going down to the district block
level to see that.
So there's much more nuancing
in that
in terms of the need of a particular sub area.
Very well, yeah. That is the approach in the commission, that we would like to have it more nuanced.
So have you discussed this with states like with chief ministers like Nitish Kumar or Naveen Patnaik?
Well, this backward region grant fund, as we have modified the scheme. This has been discussed by the concerned divisions with the concerned states during the course of the formulation of the plan, and then we will be discussing.
Centrally sponsored schemes could also be delivered through this.
This is the centrally sponsored scheme.
This centrally sponsored.
We will give funds at the district level, at the state level, and ask the district and the state to spend money in these or the district bodies to spend in these blocks where there is a development required with the support of the panchayats and others, and they will be a part of.
So essentially, sir, what you're saying is that a Manrega program, livelihood program, can go to say 3 blocks in Bihar which are in need of that program, but may not go to the 3 blocks next to adjacent to those which may not need that program.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the other schemes remain as they are. They will be nuanced separately. This is a separate scheme where we are taking
this is completely separate.
Completely separate, where we are taking the backward regions and we are saying that what are your developmental requirements
and some additional funding.
Additional funding for them.
Grants will go to them.
And at a grassroots level, so that they also come up with their infrastructure requirements.
So now coming to centrally sponsored schemes and funding of centrally sponsored schemes. In 1996 or 97, about 4 years after reforms, the reform process began, economic reform process, I am told that some 8,000 or 9,000 crore was the total funding through centrally sponsored schemes. Today it is 2 lakh crore. So do you have any, has Planning Commission done any audit as to how this huge 25 times increase in centrally sponsored funding is being used in various states? Is it being used optimally to attack real backwardness in the states which are facing special problems? Is there any audit?
Well, this is now one of the major planks of all these centrally sponsored schemes, that you must have an evaluation and an assessment of what is being done.
Special evaluation.
Special evaluation. In addition to that, we are now setting up an independent evaluation office in the Planning Commission, which is evaluate many of these schemes. There is an inbuilt evaluation mechanism, for example.
When you say independent evaluation, what do you mean? Who does the evaluation?
We have an independent evaluation office set up here, and they will do the evaluation of many of these schemes and say that whether these have done well, these need reforms, changes, what are the modifications required, they will come out with that. But that's at a macro level. But as of now, even now in each one of these schemes, we are trying to build up their assessments. For example, in case of Narega, there is a question of social audit. And which is taking place and seeing how the scheme is done. Then from time to time, there are assessments from here, from independent evaluators, how have the Narega done? And people say that, look, this is done badly, this has been the problem.
In some places it's doing well,
some places yes. Similarly, in case of this scheme on RGGBY, we asked the ministry to get it independent evaluated through 3, 4, 5 sources. So they have given their reports, and this is the scheme.
On various schemes you're getting this independent
evaluation. We are trying to get evaluation done to see.
And so tell me, the budget has very boldly announced that that centrally sponsored schemes, which number about over 150, will be now reduced to 71, and a lot of them would be rationalized. Now, just explain to us what sort of rationalization is going to happen.
See, the intention is that as of now, there are around 150, 170 odd schemes.
Yeah, 170
and they are in different departments, small schemes. I mean, take for example animal husbandry. They have a scheme for stockman centers, a scheme for artificial insemination, a scheme for bulls, all sorts of schemes. The intention of all these schemes is, say, in case of animal husbandry, to develop the infrastructure for animal husbandry and dairying. So what we are doing is basically merging all these schemes.
You're merging similar schemes
and having them as one umbrella and have a sort of a menu that, depending on the state, some states may need more stockman centers, some states may need more bulls for this thing. Similarly, in case of education, some states may need more girls' toilets, some states may need more teachers' education.
You are also asking the states for what they need.
Yes, absolutely. So once they get merged, then the states will have the choice. From that, they can take up that the overall the scheme.
So it's a menu you will offer the states, and based on which states can take whatever they want
for their and spend money on that.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Mr. Chaturvedi, for talking to us. And that's all we have in this edition of State of the Economy. We'll be back with you soon with another episode. Thanks for watching.